Look, Eddie, big news, man. With I want to jump into the Dillian Whyte announcement against Wallin, and which there were rumors before that he was going to fight Chris Arreola, and I actually think Otto is a tougher fight for Dillian. Is that a good thing at this point in his career?
It's a good thing for the fans. It's not a good thing for the heart rate. You know, I mean, I've got to take my hat off to Dillian Whyte. You know, we looked at a number of fighters, a number of options. There was Jermaine Franklin, you know, there was Chris Arreola, there was Marco Huck that was ordered for the EBU title. We actually had an agreement with Areola's team to do the fight, and I always felt that was going to be the guy. And then out of nowhere, that fight started to go quiet, and I spoke to Dimitri Salita about Otto Wallin, and I thought, I love the fight, but I'm going to take it to Dillian. But southpaw, skillful, you know, avoided, really. Right now, you have to say, like, he hasn't been able to secure a big fight. Dillian was like, I love that fight. Let's do it. And, you know, it's a really, really good fight. Otto Wallin, who I hadn't even heard of, really. I mean, I knew he sparred AJ, but before he fought Fury, I was even saying, who's this guy? Otto Wallin. And he gave Fury all he could handle that night. He cut him up. The fight actually should have been stopped, really. But it was a tremendous fight. And since then, you know, he's beaten Kaufman, he's beaten Brazil, and honestly, he's been avoided. Tall, skillful, southpaw, can punch as well. It's just the kind of fight you don't really look to take as a voluntary defence of an interim title. So massive props to Dillian Whyte. It's a really big, important heavyweight fight, October 30th, back at the O2, and I can't wait.
Okay, so he's fighting a guy who might be a tougher fight than Arreola, and he's somebody that kind of like was adopted by America. He's living here in America. He's kind of like an American fighter now. But what happened to the thoughts of Dillian fighting in America?
Just a timing thing, really, and travel and COVID and visas and everything. And in the end, we kind of got to a stage. Once we knew the O2 was available, you know, we started saying, like, that's his old stomping ground. Mm-hmm. You know, Dillian Whyte hasn't boxed in the UK in front of a live crowd for over 2 years. And the O2 was a place where he would fight 3 times a year. So when the opportunity came to go back there and headline, we've seen the crowds now coming out in force, you know, 20,000 in Leeds last week, 70,000 for AJ next weekend, 9,000 sell out in Liverpool for Fowler against Smith. We're going to sell out the O2 as well. So I think British boxing's flying, and, you know, this is a tough fight. This is a tough fight without having to travel abroad, you know. So O2 is the fortress for Whyte against Wallin.
I agree with you, man. Kudos to Dillian for actually taking this fight. Now, there are a lot of fight fans that aren't giving kudos to Mikey Garcia for taking Sandor Martin. Now, it's not ideal, a big name. Mikey's still a big name in the sport. What are the plans for Mikey Garcia? Obviously fighting on the 16th on the zone if he gets past Martin. Do you see a big fight ahead?
Yeah, for sure. I actually like this fight because obviously we're well aware of Sandor Martin because he's boxed on our shows the last 3 or 4 times. He's a big star in Spain on our Dazn Spain shows. He's very, very skillful. And I promise you one thing, obviously he asked what money he was getting, but he just wants this fight. Like, this is his moment. Do you know what I mean? He's ranked. I had an argument with Mike Coppinger. He's like, you know, Sandor Martin. I said, like, the guy's top 10 in the world in 3 governing bodies. He's a European champion. He's a very skillful fighter. I know he's a massive underdog against Mikey Garcia, but Mikey Garcia has been out of the ring for over 1.5 years, mainly eating, right?
Yes.
And Sandor Martin and these guys are looking at, and they're going, if I'm ever going to beat Mikey Garcia, it's now, right?
Yes.
For me, I look at Mikey Garcia, 4-weight world champ, unbelievable talent. Like, for me, we should be making the Regis Prograis fight.
What happened to that? Yeah.
I just feel that, again, like, you know, momentum, guys been out of the ring. I think Regis can box in November and we should just go straight into that fight. But, you know, Mikey needs to get active again. I think that's the one thing that's really plagued his career in terms of becoming a Hall of Famer. You know, this is a guy that has achieved so much, yet he's not on everybody's lips to call out as a great because I don't think he's been active enough. So I expect him, you know, he's a big favourite against Sandor Martin. I'm telling you now, Martin, very skillful. He will come to win that fight, and he will, you know, he'll test Mikey Garcia. But Mikey Garcia is a pound for pound great, and it's good to see him back in the ring.
I want to get your opinion on what we saw on Triller, if you got a chance to watch it. with Donald Trump and his son being alternate, commentators, and what we saw from the great legend Evander Holyfield. What was your overall take about that event?
It was what it says on the tin. I mean, let's get it right. They're not trying to promote boxing in a fantastic fashion for the sport. They're trying to create a circus that makes you go, what on earth is going on here? Right? So, like, I saw the Trump stuff. I actually didn't mind that. It was quite a good little PR move. I mean, the Evander Holyfield stuff was probably some of the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Like, growing up watching Evander Holyfield, this guy is like one of my favorite fighters of all time. He was one of the toughest men of all time. He had probably the greatest chin of all time. You go back, watch the Riddick Bowe fights back, watch how he moves up from cruiserweight to heavyweight. Like, this guy's a complete legend. To see him, and let's have it right, the word is abused, right? To go and take that fight. And I know that he's got his own mind and he can make his own decisions, but to not have the people around him to care about him enough to say, no. Like, he shouldn't, you can tell he shouldn't be in a ring. Like, it doesn't take, a commission to run the medicals to know that this guy at 58 or whatever he was, he should not be in a boxing ring. Yeah. You're taking away people's legacy. You could be taking away people's health. And YouTube boxing is one thing. I don't mind what Jake Paul's doing. I respect what Jake Paul's doing. One, because he's putting the work in. Two, he's not fighting boxers, but he's fighting fighters, right? And three, he's promoting the shows well. This is different, right? This is not a young YouTuber, in a training camp, going out and fighting an MMA guy. This is a guy that, quite frankly, is not medically fit to have a fight. For the commission, who we worked with in Florida before, to allow that to happen, I'll tell you something now. There is absolutely no way the British Boxing Board of Control would even consider allowing that fight to happen. And what we saw, look, they could have done 6 rounds, move around. What we saw was actually, it disgusted me.
But Eddie, with that being said, and this is the only sport where there's no pension, there's nothing for the fighters after boxing. So obviously, Evander, I'm not saying it was okay for him to fight. Obviously, the people that stand to gain from it, they don't care about his health. What do you say about a guy who needs money, is fighting obviously for money? How does boxing change where we put these guys who've blown all their money in a better place when they need it?
You have to choose your team better. Because when you've made the kind of money that Evander Holyfield made in his career, you should
not be broke.
Back in the ring at 58. You should be on the beach, right, in a villa, right? Looking at your world championship belts on your wall, thinking, what a great career I had, and thank you for the life that boxing gave me. And the fact is, and I'll tell you something now, this happens more in America than it certainly happens in the UK. Fighters get abused throughout their career, before, after, during. Look at the fighters that have, like in America, like Mike Tyson, right? And listen, sometimes it's the fighter's fault, right? They're irresponsible, but you can't expect a fighter to be educated about how to handle their money. They don't come from that kind of background, right? But you have to have people around you. This is why building a team for a fighter is so important. You have to have people that care about you, care about your career, look out for you. Who looked out for Evander Holyfield to get him in this position, right? So I agree with you, Ed. Yes, whatever he made, 2, 3, 4, 5 million. It's very difficult to turn that down.
Yes. And
you can't always look at the fighters. You have to look at the people that are paying that money, right? Because I go back to Triller, and look, they're doing their thing, no problem with it. They don't care they're not boxing people. Like, you can say whatever you want about me or Matchroom or even Aram or whoever. We're boxing people, right? We care about the sport of boxing. We may not always make decisions that you like, but we are so emotionally involved in this sport. It's unbelievable. You think that myself or Aram or would actually let Evander Holyfield go in the ring at 58? No chance. I don't care if I was going to make a load of money. No way ever. And you can't blame Evander Holyfield for going in the ring. I don't know his financial position, but obviously he got a few $1 million, and it was very helpful to him. Mm-hmm. It's the people that are responsible. And if you don't want to blame Triller, blame the commission. Because how? Someone's going to get badly hurt, right? He could have died in that ring, easy. Like he could have taken a beating that changed his life forever. Right. And then people have blood on their hands. And whose fault is it? Yes, you can blame the promoters, but Triller are there to drive numbers. They want a freak show. You have to blame the commissions. The commission can't let Evander Holyfield fight at 58 years old.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we're just glad that nothing like that did happen, and he did get a paycheck. Now,
you know what, Brad? People will go, oh, look, no, listen, what's the big deal? He didn't get hurt. He got a few $1 million. It's no problem. But where does it stop?
Right. I get it. And he's still asking for more fights, too. So who knows? And probably if he would have fought Mike Tyson, maybe it would have been worse, you know? And then now you got Vitor calling out Canelo. So yeah, there you go with the crazy call outs.
I said before, we have to be careful with this sport, you know, in ways where we, you know, not just with the dangers of the sport, but with maintaining the credibility. This sport has a history of centuries of history and legacy. Mm-hmm. We can't just completely make it a circus. I know what people are trying to do, but it actually motivates me more to go the other way and say we need to actually, you know, we have to make these good fights. We have to show everybody how great the sport is, and we have to run it in a proper fashion. Mm-hmm. But this is worrying, and it won't last forever because someone will get hurt, or people will get bored of it, or people want to, you know, watch the real stuff. But, you know, again, YouTube boxing, Jake Paul, that's one thing. I don't have a problem with that. What we saw on Saturday was a disgrace.
All right, speaking of Jake Paul, we was listening to an interview with Amanda Serrano, and she's saying that she's working with Jake Paul now, and they're actually working with you. How's that going?
Yeah, good. I mean, I had a call the other day with Nikisa, who's Jake Paul's manager and works on that team. They're motivated to try and make the biggest fight in women's boxing. I think Jake's a very smart young man, you know, a very clever guy. I think he looks at it right now and goes, well, you know, I could come in here, I could get a great payday for Amanda Serrano, which he obviously likes her and thinks that she deserves. And I could be responsible for making the biggest women's fight of all time. I could be a bit of a hero, you know? And
you can't be mad at him.
But when we talked before about falling in love with boxing, I bet Jake Paul's fallen in love with boxing. It's very easy to do. Do you know what I mean? So he's got the bug and he's thinking to himself, wow, we could do Katie Taylor against Amanda Serrano at Madison Square Garden, you know, the biggest female fight of all time. I'd love him involved. What a great partner to have pushing that show, you know? So the talks were great. Obviously, Amanda wants a lot of money. Katie wants a lot of money. We'll work with Dazn and Jake Paul and Lou DiBella or whoever's involved and MSG, because that's where we want to do it.
Yeah.
To get these girls what they deserve. But that is the fight. You know, Katie's always chasing legacy. And in her pro career, that might be her most defining moment. And we're very motivated to make it happen.
Okay.
All right. So, Eddie, really quick, man, do you have any exclusive news you can give us about Devin Haney and who his possible opponent would be? He took to social media saying, I can't even get an opponent. You guys want me to announce a fight. Give us something, Eddie.
So I don't think Ryan Garcia is going to fight this year, personally, right? So Jojo Diaz, this is the call out to you. What are you doing? What are you waiting for? I mean, you know, and I know Jojo will fight anyone, and he's not afraid of anyone. But ultimately, Jojo was waiting to see what the position would be. Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia. Now, if Ryan Garcia doesn't fight this year, it has to be Jojo Diaz. Like, what are these people waiting for to fight Devin Haney? They keep getting into a mandatory position. They keep getting called to fight him. What's the excuse now? Jojo Diaz, the fight with Ryan Garcia, I believe he's not there this year. So what are you going to do?
Right.
You know, there's been a major...
Yeah, and we saw... I saw Oscar respond to somebody on social media when Devin Haney and Jojo were going back and forth. I'm not sure if it was Oscar or somebody in his team say, hey, don't worry, Devin, we got plans for Jojo already. And you're a star, and, you know, kind of throwing shots like that he's not being handled properly. That's what I saw on social media. What do you say to that?
Well, people like that, people like Oscar, they want to make sure that Devin doesn't get the fights and doesn't become a star, because that's another reason why people are killing boxing, because he's more concerned about Matchroom having a big star and doing a big show. I mean, he's with the same broadcaster as us. You know, and you see all this stuff and you think, what are you doing? You know, you have an obligation. You work for Dazn. Let's have it right. So do I. Our jobs are to provide the best fights and the greatest value for money for our subscribers. Jojo Diaz against Devin Haney is a tremendous fight. Jojo Diaz is the mandatory challenger. Oscar de la Hoya represents him and Golden Boy represents him, who work for Dazn. I represent Devin Haney, who basically works for Dazn, and I work for Dazn. What are we doing? Yet you're more concerned about saying, no, you know, you're not being handled, you know, you go and do your own thing. We've got plans. So, no, do your job, right? Yeah. Do your job, deliver for your fighter, give him a great payday, chance to become a WBC world champion, deliver for your broadcasters, deliver for the fans.
Yeah, this is the best years of Devin Haney's life, and he needs to be fighting the best fighters out of there. And it's sad that it's not his fault. But before you get out of here,
let's just string it back a little bit. He's just coming off a fight with Jorge Linares, which was a great fight for his career, the perfect fight for his progression. Devin Haney's making a lot of money. Devin Haney's active. Devin Haney's life is good, but he's the one that wants these big fights as well. You know, and he believes he can beat these guys. He wants to prove himself as the best.
Well, speaking of a big fight, Chisora versus Parker was a good fight. Parker pulled that one off. Can we talk about 2?
Number 2, December 18 in Manchester, part of our big announcement today, another big heavyweight fight. You know, for Chisora, I don't know how many times I've said it's his last roll of the dice, you know, but he's so entertaining and he brings the heat, he brings the war every time. And I actually felt he probably nicked that fight in Manchester. He felt hard done by. I think number 2 will be really good and I think they'll go at it. And I'm looking forward to seeing it all again live on Dazn this time.
Yes, so am I. Looking forward to next week. AJ Usyk, thanks for your time, Eddie.
See you soon, guys.